Hello, this is Yoko. On this channel, I've noticed that a lot of information happening in China isn't accurately reaching countries outside of China. Therefore, I've taken it upon myself to gather information and share it in English. I source information from various media outlets, so I'd appreciate your comments on the content of the videos. English is not my native language, so I use an AI speaker to create the audio to ensure that I convey the information accurately. If you like what you see, please subscribe to the channel and show your support. In this video, I'd like to introduce two stories related to Chinese automobiles. Firstly, this issue has been widely reported in Japan, and many people are already aware of it. There are places in various regions of China known as EV graveyards, and they have garnered attention in China as well. Now, let me explain the background of this issue. The question at hand is who is responsible for bringing EVs to these EV graveyards in China. It's not car dealers or manufacturers, but rather car-sharing companies. Currently, the Chinese Communist Party supports electric vehicles, EVs, for various reasons, whether overtly or covertly. One of the underlying reasons is, of course, the global transition to EVs. China was lagging behind in gasoline and hybrid technology, while many advanced companies already had such technologies. To catch up, China swiftly embraced EVs when they emerged as a means of reducing CO2 emissions in Europe and the United States. As I mentioned in previous content, the EU has raised concerns that excessive government subsidies for EVs may be equivalent to dumping, and the United States has imposed limits on subsidies for exports from China. Personally, I believe Japan should consider introducing some regulations as well. Providing subsidies to Chinese EVs could potentially target the Japanese market. Returning to the topic at hand, China has ambitions to dominate the global EV market, and this is a real story. The official narrative pertains to environmental concerns, specifically CO2 reduction. China is claiming to be diligently working towards CO2 emissions reduction. Within this framework, car sharing is believed to align with government initiatives. If the Communist Party is promoting CO2 reduction, car sharing is seen as a business model that aligns with the government's intentions and is rapidly expanding in China. The idea is that sharing one car among multiple people is more environmentally friendly than each person owning their own car. This not only relates to the car's power consumption but also to the CO2 emissions during the production of electric vehicles, EVs. In essence, there is still a significant carbon footprint associated with manufacturing cars, such as energy usage and required resources. Reducing the number of cars and promoting car sharing is considered a contribution to reducing CO2 emissions. In this context, many Chinese companies are purchasing numerous EVs and starting car sharing businesses, hoping that car sharing will become popular in the future. However, from the perspective of the Chinese government, this may be seen as an unnecessary initiative. For the government, CO2 reduction is a front, and simultaneously, China actively uses vast amounts of fossil fuels and engages in coal mining. There is no clear direction to reduce these practices. In essence, what the Communist Party is genuinely considering is the export of EVs, not environmental concerns. The environmental situation within China is severe. As a result, car sharing might become popular within China, and there might be restrictions on the required number of EVs in the domestic market. This is not ideal for Chinese manufacturers. If Chinese consumers buy a large number of EVs, the domestic market is strengthened, allowing for facility expansion and job creation. Therefore, from the government's perspective, the car sharing movement may not be welcomed. Moreover, various issues related to EV car sharing have emerged in China. For example, there is a lack of parking space in urban areas in China, and in some regions, finding parking can be challenging. In places like Shanghai, it can be difficult to find parking even when you go somewhere by car. This issue applies to car sharing services as well. Even if you have many cars, finding locations to place them around the city can be challenging. Furthermore, user behavior and responsibility play a crucial role in car sharing. Ideally, people who use the cars take good care of them. However, if they are used carelessly and become dirty, it may increase cleaning costs and maintenance time. In China, there are many cases of people eating and drinking in vehicles. Since these are rental cars, there isn't always a strong motivation to keep the cars clean. This incurs additional costs. It is a cultural belief that messing up with food is a way to show gratitude to the chef. In addition, EV technology is still rapidly evolving, with new models and features being introduced every year. This means that every time new features are added, the cars become outdated, much like smartphones. Pre-purchased TVs may render next year's models inconvenient. While some issues can be addressed through software updates, the pace of model changes is very rapid. Older models may not be appealing to users. Lowering prices might be a solution, but it may not be profitable. As a result, companies that started EV car sharing early ultimately went bankrupt. I'd like to introduce two stories related to Chinese automobiles. Lately, there have been reports regarding a phenomenon known as the automobile graveyard. This is where previously used cars are collected and left abandoned. To be clear, this kind of phenomenon is quite common in China. For example, in China, there was a business of sharing electric bicycles on a large scale. In 2017, several companies were purchasing a large number of shared bicycles and collecting fees from members. However, when numerous companies entered the market, this business model became unsustainable due to intense competition, leading to companies operating at a loss to gain market share. Ultimately, many of these companies went bankrupt, leaving behind a large number of abandoned bicycles, creating what could be called bicycle graveyards. Now, a similar phenomenon is believed to be occurring in the automotive industry. In China, car-sharing companies are not only competing intensely with each other but also with electric vehicle, EV, manufacturers. They seem to be engaged in a race to outcompete each other and gain market share, potentially undermining each other's profitability. To survive in this competitive environment, Chinese EV companies may need to expand beyond their domestic market by exporting their vehicles. However, the challenge lies in whether they can sell these EVs abroad. As I mentioned earlier, both the European Union, EU, and the United States have started imposing regulations to limit the influx of Chinese-made EVs, mainly due to concerns about subsidies and competition. While Chinese companies may have a price advantage, this advantage may be eroded by regulatory barriers. Therefore, it's uncertain whether they can effectively capture the global market. In this context, the recent story about BYD, a prominent Chinese EV manufacturer, experiencing a surge in job applications is noteworthy. In a country with a growing unemployment problem, this development is seen as a positive sign. However, if BYD's export efforts lead to an influx of Chinese EVs in international markets, it could prompt a reaction from Western countries, especially the United States and the EU, who may try to protect their domestic industries by implementing further regulations. Japan, on the other hand, should carefully consider the subsidies it provides to Chinese EVs. These subsidies should be channeled in ways that benefit Japanese companies and the overall economic strength of the nation. The key is to enhance Japan's capacity to earn money globally by fostering industries and services that attract demand from around the world. Simply redistributing wealth or spending money on foreign students may not lead to the long-term economic improvement of the Japanese people. In conclusion, the intense competition in the Chinese automotive industry and the potential challenges in exporting vehicles abroad could lead to significant disruptions in the industry. While job growth at companies like BYD is encouraging for China, the response of Western countries to Chinese EV exports will be crucial in determining the industry's future dynamics. Japan should also be mindful of its policies regarding Chinese EVs to ensure they benefit domestic businesses and the broader economy. That's it for this discussion. Until next time.